On this tiny episode of a very kooky countdown, a tiny car that isn't a Mini. And a very, very small show pony that's a hit with the kids. There's the world's smallest baby grand piano. And is that a mouse or a dog? Find out on a very kooky countdown. At number 10 on a very kooky countdown, welcome to the world of mini books. And when we say mini, we mean mini.
Human beings have always been fascinated by extremes and also by firsts. The tallest mountain, the deepest abyss, and the smallest things. And books, of course, fit into that category. And so there has been and continues to be a worldwide sort of competition for various reasons, bragging rights, if you will, to craft the smallest book.
Here at New York City's Grolier Club, the tiniest exhibition ever was released to the public with the Miniature Books 4,000 Years of Tiny Treasures exhibition, featuring an array of tiny books, all smaller than 3 inches or 80 millimetres, but some as small as just 1 millimetre big or small. With everything in such a tiny scale, it must be terribly difficult to produce a book at this dimension.
To compose a book with that kind of tiny type for 207 pages, it is rumored that it caused the compositor who put all the type together to injure his eyesight.
Ouch! Although most of these books are too small to read, they're incredible to look at. The highlight of the show is Toppen Printing Company's The 12 Hariri Signs, Chinese Zodiac, which measures less than 1 millimetre. So small that whoever wants to read this perler will need a sharp needle to turn the pages and a powerful magnifying glass to read them. The oldest mini book on display dates back more than 4,000 years, with the Babylonian clay tablets dating back to 2325 BC. According to those that have read this one, it's an oldie but a goodie. For those that would rather wait for the film than read the mini book, here's the mini TV to watch it on. Here's the world's smallest wearable television, so small it will fit on the edge of one's reading glasses. Called the Teleglass T3F, it's the latest version of an ultra-small TV monitor developed by Japanese optical firm Scalar. The company hopes to see millions of these sold to commuters to help them catch up with their favourite TV programs while riding crowded trains and buses. When wearing the display, it would look much like watching a 28-inch TV screen located 2 metres away, where the actual gadget weighs only 35 grams and measures 2 centimetres in size. It seems with this TV, you can do 2 things at once. By using this gadget, you can enjoy watching videos by yourself with one eye, while at the same time look at other people and the view outside. Company spokespeople claim that this isn't just the tiniest TV in the world, but it's also fully capable of letting you enjoy the scenery while you move around and watch TV at the same time. The makers predict their potential customers to be millions of urban commuters who struggle in packed trains every day, especially in Japan, where even trying to adjust a portable media player can be a challenge.
I think it is very useful when you can't move even an inch in a packed commuter train.
No doubt you're already thinking of where else you could use such a device. At school while completing an exam, maybe driving the car, maybe not. Let's continue on a very kooky countdown with number 8. And a lot of theatre people say the hardest thing about taking a tour on the road is the setting up and packing down of the show at each venue. Here's the solution. Take a motorbike with a sidecar, a few painted panels of wood, one purple-coloured seat, an abridged version of War and Peace, a cast of 3 talented actors, and voila, you have a ready-made transportable theatre for one.
without a word of a lie, I go into the bedroom, and here's Marcel lying in bed, and he kind of, he goes, he said, Pat, he said, I want you to keep the smallest theatre going, and die.
This is the smallest theatre in the world, and the creator, Marcel Steiner, started this in the 1970s when he bought this old and battered Panther motorbike with a gigantic sidecar.
We have actually had an entire family plus dog, but the dog did get a bit disturbed in the back of the corridor. It started fighting back that way.
Yeah, he went for me, didn't he? As I came into the theatre with a spear and do the dying scene, the dog went for me. Like, you know, it's like, oh my God, you know.
Complete with a box office, stage door, Sistine Chapel frescoed ceiling, red plush curtains and one big, soft, comfortable seat, Marcel toured the world with this theatre for over 30 years. Once, after a fire destroyed the theatre, donations poured in, and the group had to rebuild it in 24 hours. As they say, the show must go on.
Because they're right in your face, so when the guy jumped in here with his knife, I thought he was going to chop me up, and then the whole thing exploded under my feet. So yeah, it's as good as any blockbuster from Hollywood, I reckon.
The great thing about this theatre is that almost every show is a sellout. There's more kooky miniatures to come, so stick around to a very kooky countdown. We're back on our tiny episode of a very kooky countdown. And at number 7 we come to the smallest hotel in the world. Another kooky creation here in Bavaria, in southern Germany, where they pack everything you'll need to enjoy your hotel stay into just 53 square metres of space. Called the Hotel, or marriage house, it was actually constructed back in 1728 by covering a small space between two buildings with a roof. There's a lot involved in this tiny hotel. Here we have the smallest hotel in the world. It is 2.5 metres wide and is built on a basis of 20 squared metres. It is divided up into 7 levels, and each level contains a special feature. The reason behind the name of the marriage house is that this building helped out many local couples back in the 18th century when they wanted to marry. Back then, to get married by law, a couple had to own property, and this place was small enough for any budget. The guests come from all over the world. Yesterday we had an inquiry from Finland, so it is really interesting. Also from Austria, but the majority of people are Germans who want to spend their wedding night or anniversary here. The tiny hotel has just undergone a refurbishment, bringing it into the 21st century. It attracts many honeymooners from all around the world, and if you're keen on a short stay, it will cost you around $300 per night. Exterminate! Exterminate! Well, this miniature robot doesn't quite have the same scary effect as Doctor Who's robots did, but it sure can get in and out of tight spaces with relative ease. Created by the Seiko Epson Corporation, who are famous for making watches, claim that Nino here is the smallest robot of its kind in the world. The company has announced that they will start making the robot, who measures a measly 0.5 cubic centimetres and weighs only 3.7 grams. You wouldn't want to sneeze while holding this little toy in your hand, or you'd lose it for sure. For its tiny size, it's actually quite complex. It's made from 96 separate parts, and they call its interior mechanism escargot. Yum. The wristwatch is the world's smallest mechanism. Our developer got a hint from it and invented the smallest robot. We believe that the robot will be mainly used in toys. We don't intend to make profits out of the product, but because of its high-tech precision nature, we hope to improve our company image. Seiko plans to sell this tiny robot for its not-so-tiny price of around $500 and say they already have more than 50 orders. The company are the masters of making things small. They've also manufactured the world's previous smallest robot called Monsieur and featured it in the Guinness Book of Records. We're halfway on our countdown of tiny tales, and this has to be one of the cutest pets we've ever seen. Meet Dylan, the Papillion, who is the smallest dog in Britain. He's also our number 5 spot on a very kooky countdown. Just 10 weeks old, Dylan measures only 4 inches at the shoulder and weighs a tiny 1 pound. Like the robot in our previous story, you wouldn't want to sneeze while holding this little pet, or you might lose him too. Dylan's owner, Barbara Jones, says that despite his size, or lack of it, he's very energetic.
You get lively dogs, you get quiet dogs, but he just seems like a small dog with a big brain that he doesn't realise the size he is.
When Dylan was born, he weighed just 2 ounces, and he nearly didn't make it into the world at all. A couple of weeks after he was born, his mother rolled over in the night and squashed the poor pooch. Ah, what a cutie. As we get closer to that number 1 spot on this episode of a very kooky countdown, where today we're looking at all things small. As a narrator, I'm not keen on feeling a little horse, but I'm certainly a big fan of this little horse. Here's Thumbelina, and as the story goes, she's only as big as your thumb. Well, in this case, she's a touch bigger, but she's still tiny. Kids at the Specialised Children's Hospital School in Fanwood, New Jersey, enjoyed a special treat with a visit from the world's smallest horse, tiny Thumbelina. The little pony stands just 44.5 centimetres high and weighs around 26 kilograms, around the size of an average dog. And it was a fairy tale come true for many of the kids who ranged from 6 months to 5 years as they came face to face with this little princess.
Thumbelina was a fluke, actually. We didn't breed for this. She is a dwarf mini, and so she is about 17.5 inches tall, and according to Guinness, she's the smallest horse in history.
Being the smallest horse in history comes with some big responsibilities, like travelling the country and putting smiles on people's faces, especially for children. Thumbelina's owner, Michael Goessling, said that Thumbelina's parents are miniature horses, but they're almost double their offspring's size. This little horse is treated like a rock star, with this visit to the Children's Hospital part of the Thumbelina Children's Tour. There might not be any merchandise to buy from this tour, but the memories for the kids will last forever. With so many questions, the children had an answer for everything.
Why do you think Thumbelina is so small?
Because I think she needs a haircut.
You've ridden on a horse before?
Uh-huh. On the fall I did.
And how big was that horse?
This big.
Did you touch Thumbelina?
No. A little bit, for a little bit.
What does she feel like?
Soft. And she's bigger than a dog.
This children's specialised hospital in America is one of the largest paediatric rehabilitation centres for kids in the United States. A chance for kids to interact with animals has many well-being benefits, as is explained by hospital teacher Debbie Earley.
You know what? I think it's a real sensory experience for some of them, you know, to really get in there and be able to touch and feel. A lot of the kids, I think, initially are apprehensive. And usually if they see myself or my teaching assistants getting in there and doing it and touching the horse, they have a comfort level that it's okay for the teacher to do it, that, you know, I'm going to get in there and do the same thing. And I think they become animated. I think it's just an enlightening experience for them.
Michael, Thumbelina's owner, and associate Targo Di Pietro, who happens to be Thumbelina's handler, are visiting 47 of the 50 US states. While on tour, the horse certainly travels in style. No dodgy hotel rooms for this little show pony.
Yeah, that is actually for Thumbelina. When she was a baby, she didn't like her stall, so she kicked the dog out in the barn, and she moved into the doghouse, and she wouldn't come out until the dog went away. So we had to get the dog another doghouse, and this is where she's been ever since.
Miniature horses have been bred for more than 400 years and originated in Europe. They were bred especially for European royal families. So it's time to move over Mr. Ed. Tiny Thumbelina is a huge star in her own right. Coming up, some very tiny man-made marvels on a very kooky countdown. We're at position number 3 on a very kooky countdown, and the Czech town of Pelhřimov is famous for the records it sets. Townspeople are encouraged to come up with new and kooky records to break. They've been doing it since the early 1990s, and many of the records broken are on display at the Museum of Curiosities and Records. One of the displays is by artist Lubomir Marek, who is one of the world's fastest artists. We told Lubomir that we had a small space which we could fill with his works, and he found more than 50 works of caricature, starting with Albert Einstein and ending with ex-president Václav Havel. But the museum itself believes it now has a record of its own for the smallest gallery in the world. The gallery is 117 centimetres wide, 82 centimetres deep and 62 centimetres high, which gives altogether almost 2.5 metres of exhibition space. Small, but you can see a lot. The idea for the gallery came from the agency that runs the museum when they wondered what to do with some unused space under the staircase. They approached Marek, and the rest, as they say, is history. I was not sure how to set it up. Then I made something like a best-of selection from my archive and chose 55 pictures, starting with French actor Louis de Funès or Czech actor Vladimir Mensik, which I drew in 1985 and 1986. The gallery houses 55 pieces of Marek's work, caricatures of actors, sporting stars, singers and politicians. But to view the work, visitors must lie down on a rug or cushion to do so. There is a limit of just 2 or 3 people at one time. The oldest caricature is Josef Masopust, a Czech soccer player from 1985 over there. And the newest is Bob Marley from 1908. And the exhibition covers 22 years of my work. The museum with the smallest gallery also exhibits the biggest ball of wool and the longest scarf. They hope to soon appear in the Guinness Book of World Records. Number 2 on the countdown goes to a truly tiny toy that's perfect for those with tiny fingers to match. Made by Japanese toy maker SEGA, this miniature piano is claimed to be the smallest full-functioning grand piano in the world, measuring just 25 centimetres wide and 18 centimetres high. The piano has a full range of 88 keys and sounds very close to that of a grand piano, or that of a minuscule grand piano. No matter how good the pianist is, it seems that it's a hard piano to play, with the keys being so tiny. Each key has a width of just 4 millimetres. There is a reason that the company decided to create this tiny piano. It's scaled down 6 times from its original size, and Yoshiyuki Endo explained the reason behind this development. Considering the housing situation in Japan, few households afford to have a huge grand piano in their house. So we considered it had to be cut down to this size to be accepted by people who live in a small space. Maybe this is the size perfect for a doll's house, but I'm sure they could have come up with a piano somewhere in between.
You can bring it anywhere and have a mini concert. I think it will be a great communication tool.
Fair enough, that explains it. I suppose now other musical instrument makers will want to get in on this action and create miniature trombones, violins, cymbals and gongs. Orchestras around the world will be clamouring for these instruments, thinking of the cost savings on excess baggage when touring. When the piano goes on sale, it's expected to sell for around $400 US. The piano is perfect for a Christmas present, and you won't have to spend a fortune on wrapping paper. At last, we've made it to our number 1 spot on this episode of a very kooky countdown, our All Things Small episode. And to top off this show, we've found the smallest car in the world, believe it or not. London's Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum has purchased this tiny mode of transport, regarded as the world's smallest road-legal car. For some, the effort of just climbing in and out of this machine would be enough of a hassle. The car, a P50 as it's called, measures just 134 centimetres long and 99 centimetres wide, and it weighs only 59 kilograms, less than many of those who have driven it. Only 100 of these P50s were ever made by Peel Engineering, and only 20 of those survive today. The complete car is small enough to fit inside a Volkswagen camper van, perfect for those going on holiday who want a small runabout when they get to their destination. The P50 was ahead of its time in the caring for the environment stakes. When launched in the 1960s, it boasted a top speed of 61 kilometres per hour, while using just under 3 litres of fuel per 100 kilometres travelled. The car has a 3-speed manual transmission, but originally didn't have a reverse gear, making this a bit difficult for the driver.
It's a very good car in terms of gas mileage, almost 100 miles to the gallon. This one was equipped with electric, so our carbon footprint is even smaller.
You're doing your bit for the environment.
Absolutely. In this day of blizzards and global warming, this kind of car will reduce that impact.
The tiny car was a big hit when showed off to the public recently on a cold and wet day in downtown London. Thankfully, the large windscreen wiper was working perfectly. Museum worker David Gray managed to squash his fairly large frame into the cockpit and tour the machine around, going from busy shopping malls to crossing lights with pedestrians. If you've ever wanted a car that turned heads, this little beauty is a certain winner. That's it for this tiny episode of A Very Kooky Countdown. We look forward to seeing you next time.